Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles, and both myself and our guest are coming to you from around 5,280 feet. We might be at slightly different altitudes, but around that. And that's where you will be in September of 2023 from Mile High 11.
Yow! We're going to 11.
These go to 11. And we're excited to have you on this podcast with us. If you're listening, watching, wherever you're listening and watching, make sure you hit subscribe, whether it be YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or Spotify. Hit subscribe so you never miss any Mile High tick. And of course, hit register, riseuptomilehigh.com to reserve seats for yourself and your team to be on higher ground in September and join us. Everything's better at a Mile High. And thank you for joining us today, the one and only Dr. Simon Dove. Dr. Simon Dove is not only a Life University grad, practicing chiropractor in Fort Collins, Colorado, a Mile High MC, president of the Mile High Foundation, Mile High Chiropractic Foundation. And not only that, he's also what very few people know. He's the man behind the shirt. So we're looking forward to this episode. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Simon Dove.
You got it, buddy. It's great to be here. It's not being recorded, right? This isn't not being recorded.
No. We're glad to have you here. And thank you for joining us. And, you know, not to be confused with the other Simon. There's another Simon that's known in the profession. It's a totally different Simon.
I tell you what, anytime someone does, that's happened over the years, they're like, oh, it's so good to meet you. Depends on. And I always like, hey, thank you for the compliment.
Well,
that's a big compliment.
You look very scholarly right now.
Yeah, I'm the other Simon, not the I only have one brain, not four.
Well, you know, we've all known each other about the same amount of time.
That's true. That's true.
So we're all in school at the same time, all knew each other as Padawans. So, you know.
Right. I even had hair back then. That's how long.
That's true. So, you know, speaking of all that, let's say a little bit or get to know you a little bit better as your road to chiropractic. Simon, can you share a little bit about what your road to the chiropractic world?
Okay. You know, I've been realizing recently I haven't done a great job in telling my story in my own practice. And I recommend all of you, if you haven't done that, dive into it. It's a valuable process. There are some great programs out there to help you dive in to that. Dan Sullivan does an amazing job at that. Danny Knowles, I think that guy does some good work around that too. You know, for me, I grew up in a kind of straightforward, easy, like simple way, almost old school. My parents were like, they weren't fringe, they weren't alternative thinkers much, but they were like, look, if you got sick, you ate good food, you went to bed and you rested, and your body would sort that stuff out if you had a problem. Little did I know that was like my pre-chiropractic kind of setup, right? So that served me super well. I get into college, I get this horrible neck pain, which, you know, most of the world has had at one point or another. And I'm working 3 jobs, going to chiropractic school, going out with friends every night, and not chiropractic school, college, and having fun. This pain is rough in the neck. And my parents sort of like my parents' motto of, you know, eat good food, get some good water, rest, go to bed, your body will figure it out. That was not cutting it. And a friend of mine who I was working with goes, hey, you should go to my chiropractor. And I said, I did like Danny just did. What? Huh? I was like, what's a chiropractor? Like, I had never heard the word. I couldn't spell it if you made me. And I said, what's that? He tells me, and I go, okay. I go. The guy is a sweetheart of a guy, family practice. This is Northern Virginia. And it was great. And he goes, hey, your brain and spinal cord control everything. When they're blocked, they don't do a good job controlling everything. Let me adjust you. He gave me a gentle adjustment, and I felt amazing. A couple of weeks later, I stopped going. I felt great. I'm in art school at the time. So I'm there doing my thing, loving art. And my goal was to go to Italy. I was about to graduate, and I'm headed to Italy. I can't stop thinking about it. I'm practicing, eating a lot of pizza, eating a lot of lasagna, making sure I'm getting my Italian game going. And I get there, and I have an uncle who's there. Danny knows him, and he's a chiropractor. Now, the plan was I'm going to go to Italy, and I'm going to meet some of his clients that are in the art world. And I'm just going to take the art world on by fire. I'm going to do art stuff, and I can't wait. So I get there, and I'll never forget this. So I'm at his house, and I've been now on like 2 airplanes, trains, buses. John Candy wasn't there. And like my whole life is in a bag, and I'm tired and excited, living on adrenaline. And he goes, we have dinner and everything. And we go into the living room, and he goes, hey, do you want to get adjusted? And I was like, oh, wow. I haven't been adjusted in like 3 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I would love to get adjusted. And he goes, okay, Simon, now what I want to explain to you, though, is it's a little different from what you've been doing. And I was like, I don't care. You're my uncle. Just adjust me, because we were like brothers in a way. And he goes, no, 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 listen, this is like, listen. So when you lay down on the table, it's going to be a series of light touches, and what we're doing. Yeah, yeah, I don't care. Whatever. Just adjust me. Like I said, I loved him. I trusted him. He wasn't charging me. Like I didn't care. So I just wanted to get the adjustment. He goes, Simon, shut up. He goes, this is what's going on. We are going to handle the alignment, but beyond that, these light touches are going to help the spinal cord, the actual soft tissue in the brain and the cord, relax, be in a better tone, and you are going to work better on a much different level. And I got it, but I didn't get it. I was like, oh, okay, that sounds good. I lay on the table, and I tell you what, I went into a deep, deep, deep place of relaxation. And I was like, wow. I thought it was just because I was traveling for like 48 straight hours and I was exhausted. But it happened every single time over the next like 3 weeks. And it just kind of invaded my brain. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And pretty soon I wasn't going to my art interviews or doing my art. I was hanging out in his office, and I was watching these people come in and out with like depression, anger issues, insomnia, asthma. I'm like, what? I thought it was like, it's the neck, right? So it just took over. And pretty soon I was calling my parents going, hey, mom, dad, are you sitting down? And they said, okay, now we are. Why? I said, well, I'm coming back, and I'm going to chiropractic school to be a doctor of chiropractic. That's another story, maybe a different interview. That was funny enough, but it just kind of took over me, because here's the thing why. I mean, it feels great not to have neck pain. But if someone had said to me, hey, Simon, or asked me the minute before David adjusted me, if they had said, hey, are you depressed? I would have said, no, I'm super happy. I'm done with higher education. I'm about to be doing my art here in Italy. And they said, well, are you healthy? It's like, yeah, I'm healthy. That's what I would have said. But after getting adjusted for just 2 or 3 weeks with him, I had so much more energy. There was so much brightness in my eyes, the way I saw things, the way I felt things, the way I communicated, the way I slept. I was like, holy shit, I must have been depressed. I must have been living definitely in a very not so together or healthy as I could be space. And I mean, it was so good feeling. I thought everyone's got to know about this. Like this has a quality of heaven now, not heaven after you die. So I was like, the world needs to know about this. I'm in. And I'm glad I didn't know about practice management then. Instead, I was very high and in love with this idea of helping the world. And like the rest is history.
Wow. So I now have a new awareness of your journey, and so does everybody else listening. And I also have a new awareness of your something you share with Dan Limburger. Some people listening may know Dr. Dan Limburger, which is you both had the Europe effect.
Yes.
You were in Europe, and then you came back and we're going to chiropractic school.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding. It's
Dan and I
careful.
were backpacking through Europe,
Yeah.
and he actually saw
And
your
my uncle was there.
exactly, and we
Yeah.
stayed with your uncle, or maybe it's the Ferraro effect. I don't know.
It's a vortex in Italy. Everybody be careful.
And then, yeah, it came back, and I'm going to chiropractic school. That's so interesting. So
Yeah.
then you practiced in New York. What was your road
Yeah.
to Colorado? How'd you end up in Colorado in the Mile High State?
You know, I was there in New York and it was fantastic. Live like happy living in the city. I was born there, but I had moved away. So that was really exciting times. I was in Manhattan.
Mhm.
The trade tower went down. I helped with that. And there were a few other colleagues that I was down there with. And I was already kind of feeling my exit from New York, like something was going to be next. And so after all that, I went on the road with a yoga teacher. I'd also just started getting into yoga, Ashtanga yoga, and it was really exciting for me. And there was a teacher that I had met while visiting Hawaii, and she was one of the first women that was taught this form of yoga in India by the at that time living guru. And she and I became good friends, and she wanted to add to her teaching tour. So she would do this half a year teaching tour in like the Czech Republic, the UK, India, Czech, yeah, a whole bunch of places I can, and throughout the states, Chicago and New York. And so I was leaving New York and thinking about what's next. So I was kind of teaching some principles that we learned as network chiropractors about the spine and the tone of the nervous system, and having a blast, really seeing the convergence and helping these yoga students. So it was very rich. I learned a lot, but it's hard to pay tuition bills or school loans. It's hard to pay school loans while you're flying around the world every 2 weeks, and what you're making doing that. So about a year that I landed in New England, and my parents had just moved there, and I was just going to regroup and met my now wife. We fell in love, and I opened up right there. I was going to open up, and she was already thinking about going to Colorado for her master's.
Mhm.
So I said, look, I just opened up. Give me a year. Wait. So I practiced there for a couple of years in New Hampshire, and then we came to Colorado.
Well, and there's something else that's there is that ties those together, which is your road to the Beastie Boys.
Oh, that's so true. So while in New York, as you know, I was taking and especially being in Manhattan and Soho, Manhattan. Um, I mean, I bump into Willem Dafoe and the Beastie Boys and Whoopi Goldberg and who was it, Gwyneth Paltrow. It was wild. It was kind of surreal. And the yoga studio that I was going to was very kind of low key. It was really wonderfully deep in tradition, but it wasn't flashy. Didn't have a boutique and a restaurant in it. It was just old school. And I think some of these great artists and performers liked that depth and that solitude without all the hype. So over time, I wound up taking care of Mike D from the Beastie Boys, and I love this story. This story is so much fun. So that happened. Then when I move out to Colorado, I'll never forget. Danny calls me up and out of the blue, and Danny's a very generous guy. If you don't know him personally, you're missing out. Try to get to know him. And in one of his generous typical moves, he calls me up and he goes, "Hey, Simon, I happen to have an extra ticket to the Beastie Boys in Red Rocks." He says, why don't you come with me? You available? And I was like, oh, let me check my calendar. Hey, you know what? I should call Mike D and see if he, if he wants an adjustment. And Danny, being the born and raised New Yorker that he is, he immediately went, yeah, right. That's funny. You going to sell me a bridge next? And I said, no, really. And I could tell on the phone, he didn't quite want to believe me, but he wasn't sure if he could fully discount it. So he's like, okay, you make your call. And sure enough, I reach out to Mike D. He says it'd be great. Long story short, we went backstage and adjusted all the Beastie Boys before seeing him at Red Rocks. And what you may not know about Danny is, like, I just took him to his patron saint, making that connection. The Beastie Boys are on his altar at home. So that was great. In fact, I even remember driving there, and as we're chatting, had this small sense of Danny wasn't sure if he should actually believe this is gonna happen. It was great. It was a great night.
We went into Red Rocks, like commando chiropractors holding tables.
Yeah, we did.
We checked the whole road crew and so on. Not every time you're on the phone with someone, you can say, oh, Simon is down with Mike D,
Yeah. That's right. I'm down with Mike D.
And it ain't no baloney. So
that's right.
One of the interesting things about that was that we're doing that, and the Mixmaster Mike, and if people don't know, that's their DJ at the time, says to us, he asks us before he gets on the table, does this detox? And I was like, this is just an odd question. Does this make detox?
He's so nervous.
He's nervous about it. And I'm like, well, and of course I just said, no, of course not. Lay it on the table. Was what I say, but I realized because he didn't want sweat on his fingers before you're scratching records. Like that was the concern, because I didn't understand that, if they have any kind of response, because if you're going to be scratching records at Red Rocks with tens of thousands of people, you can't, your fingers need to be primed for what they need to do. Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the connection at that point, but it was interesting. So then, now you guys are starting to get to know the man behind the shirt a little bit. Right. And that's what I want to get out of this, because, Simon Dove does a Mile High shirt for us each year, among other things. So now people are getting to know him on a little depth. Now, what about your road to Mile High?
Well, I think I was, if I had to describe that was just kind of being in the active group in Colorado that you and Rochelle were such a big driving part about. It's a group of subluxation-based vitalistic chiropractors that want to be able to practice that way here in Colorado and throughout the world. So we've always been active, some of us for much longer than others, in the political scene and making sure and fighting for that. And there was like a core group of us. And then it just sort of evolved. Danny was like, you know what, I want to have more of a home here for all of these people and beyond. So he and Rochelle created this thing called Mile High. And being in that pack of people, I just woke up one day and I was like, oh, look where I am. I'm here, Mile High. What is this?
And I think I don't know the timeline. I may be wrong. I think you were here when we had our Colorado Chiropractic Wellness Alliance before that, or was that before you moved? I don't remember.
That was before I got here.
Okay, got it. So we did the Colorado Chiropractic Wellness Alliance, which involved Mark Wind and Dan Limburger and Joe Arbery and Zach Alme, because there was the political thing that we had to make sure that we were guarding it well. Right. Yeah. In terms of the state. And then that evolved over years, and very political things shift into Mile High, so that we, or it could be guardians of the sacred trust here, and also make it really a place where people experience connection and camaraderie with like-minded docs, because
Yeah.
you need that. I really am a firm believer that you need that, because otherwise you tend to be a lone wolf in your office, and
Yeah.
that doesn't serve anywhere. It doesn't serve impacting your community better.
Right.
And we need that as chiropractors. And we have coming up. We just had Mile High Philosophy Night in Boulder. We're having one April 21st in Fort Collins, where you are, at the office of Elise Rigney. And it's fueling having a community, so that people, when things are going on, you can say, sound the alarm, and also that you can be, again, have camaraderie with other people. So what's it like? What was I think you were at the first Mile High, if I remember right.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
So you were at all of them then. What's your experience of being an attendee of Mile High?
I love it. Every year I'm blown away by it. It has such this great, because I remember the first one, and the first one, like like anything like this sort of an event, yearly event where you bring a lot of speakers in. You start as big as you can be, but there's like humble beginnings, and then you watch it grow. And in the beginning, there was just so much excitement, because you and Rochelle had really brought in high level, passionate speakers in the profession that just loved the idea of what you were trying to create. And they were like, yeah, like let's do this. So there was this raw, wonderful, powerful, passionate energy of just sharing chiropractic and really showing the depth and width of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fun. It was high energy and great. And it is stayed that, even though it looks a bit bigger. There's a bigger stage, there's more people, there's more attendees, there's breakout sessions, there's all this stuff going on. But I just love that it has that raw kind of commando, like we were like, and the speakers are just so fantastic.
I remember that first one. We were like, I don't know what we're doing, but it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. That's it.
There are all these people here, and let's make this thing happen. But I remember so distinctly, Lyle Kocha coming out and saying, "Wow, the energy in that room is amazing." It's like you could just feel it. It was like something great was being born that we didn't even realize what was happening, because it was just this raw force of nature thing that was going on.
Definitely.
So which was really special. So then what? At some point along the way, you said, "Hey, I want to give more." What's it been like for you stepping up into the MC role?
The MC role has been a lot of fun. It's I think it's healthy for all of us to explore new ways to be of service. By definition, an MC should like raise the energy, get people excited, get them focused, but it's not about the MC. It's about what's happening. It's about the speaker coming up. So I think that's a really kind of a cool, small little practice that I enjoy embracing, and seeing how I can do those things, create the focus, and it carries over into my life, into the practice. But to be able to, excuse me, to be able to meet these speakers, these young ones that are coming up that are just on fire, and to be supporting them, to feel comfortable and get up on that stage and share their message. And some of these veterans that are, just kill it. It's a blast. I feel like I have, backstage passes at the Beastie Boys. Whatever, the Beastie Boys are great. I go to Mile High, baby.
I get backstage passes with some of the best in tech, which is really neat to have that experience.
Yeah.
With being that, what are some of your favorite, if we can have favorite Mile High memories?
One of my favorite was last year when Joel Kinch got the award.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, when we were announcing him and he was up in the sound booth, if anyone doesn't know him, he he masterfully leads our philosophy morning session, and he's one of the MCs. He's like, is he an MC brother? And to watch him, like us, sneak that up on him and just be able to celebrate him and what he's done. You guys aren't going to know all that he's done because he's a powerful guy and he likes to be behind the scenes. But politically, he's been super active, fighting for chiropractic philosophy, Mile High, and the work. So like, it was great seeing him get all rattled and up there on stage.
Yeah, yeah, that was really cool. And then that actually leads me another thing is that we, what's going out of this is a Mile High Foundation legal fund,
Yep.
which is pretty amazing. Can you share a little bit about what the foundation is about?
Sure. So we kind of stood on the shoulders of what Danny and Rochelle had started with that group of 20 some odd chiropractors, very principled, vitalistic chiropractors in Colorado that took the time and dollars to fight to keep chiropractic vitalistic and straight, So we wanted to polish that up a little bit more, create a foundation where it was a little more structured in how we communicate to each other, how we work with lawyers, how we work with getting down to the Capitol and being involved. So we upgraded. Like that's just what we do, right? So we created this foundation in 2019, I believe, and it's been going ever since. And we are fighting for keeping chiropractic principled vitalistic alive, for offices alive in Colorado. And when they need legal support, whether it's information or us to show up, we're there. And the vision is to have that Colorado be a model for how to do that in a state and have that spread.
And it's pretty interesting because we've now amassed a significant legal fund,
Yep.
and we're waiting for the right, or waiting because well, that's not a good word because we don't want something negative to happen, but
Right.
we're watchdogs or aware of if there's something that is a concern that would impact chiropractors having to being able to locate, analyze, adjust subluxations just because in and of themselves it's a detriment to well-being, that we would be there. So it's good to have that war chest, so to speak, on the ready if needed, and it continue to grow. So and that's what's needed, because we had the things that we've had to shift, like when chiropractors wanted to have injections in the state of Colorado, or when the state wanted to make subluxation station EMG, surface EMGs experimental. Those things we gratefully those things we won. We were what would be the word be, not one, there's a better way to say that. We were triumphant or something like that in those scenarios, and those were before the days of this foundation, but those were vital wins, vital successes. And it's so that if things like that happen again, we're there and ready. And that was really the impetus to start Mile High. And I'm grateful for all the Colorado doctors that have been stepped up and know that's important, to clean up your own backyard and take care of it. Because a lot of times chiropractors are oblivious to what's going on in their state, and that's a lot of why we've gotten where we've gotten in the profession as a whole.
Yeah, totally agree. This brings up a point I want to make right now. By definition, our paradigm isn't the dominant paradigm.
Right.
So we have to be prepared to explain that. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes that comes in the form of a fight.
Mm-hmm.
You have to defend something.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want you to get too locked into you out there, get too locked into we have to fight. So we don't have to fight. And one of the beautiful things about Mile High, we have to be ready to fight if we need to fight. But you also have to show, which is different than showing up to fight. You want to show what our gifts are. And one of the great things about Mile High, the event, not necessarily the foundation, but Mile High, the event, is you get fueled up. So you don't have to get caught up in always feeling like you're an outsider and you got to fight. We're not.
Mm-hmm.
What we want to do is show our communities and show each other how great chiropractic is and how it's a big gift to the world that they can take or not.
Mm-hmm.
One has to do it. Everyone deserves it.
Right. Right.
But the
Absolutely.
environment in Mile High really supports us fueling ourselves up and being able to shine.
Right. Vital, which is vital. And again, having connection, knowing your fellow chiropractors that have those same values in other parts of your state. And, one of the things people tell me over and over again, and I did not expect this. I thought you putting on a program, putting on an event, you have to have like the best speakers. And we do have pretty darn good speakers. But I thought originally that was all it was about. And then I found out, I discovered along the way, that's not what people talked about. They didn't talk about how great the speakers were. I mean, they enjoyed that, the energy,
Right.
and all of that. They actually talked about, the camaraderie and seeing your friends and the connection and how much fun they had. That's what they talked about. And it took me a few Mile Highs to realize that. I was like, no, the feedback was not about the speakers, and they loved the speakers. It wasn't like the speakers were negative, but they loved the time in the restaurant. They attended the social events. They loved the after party. Like that was what they loved, which was remarkable to me. And it was like a real eye-opening thing. But people are information overloaded and community deprived, especially after the last 2 years. That we've had. So, having that experience of community with fellow chiropractors is a vital thing for your soul, as a doc. So, yeah.
Well said.
Absolutely.
I mean, you haven't lived until you've had a hallway conversation with Brian Dooley or a parking lot cigar session with Jack Borla.
That's true.
You really haven't lived as a full-fledged chiropractor until one of those things has happened.
Or being in a photo booth with Dan Lyons
and Thor's hammer.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, that brings it to a whole nother level. So
that's true.
I think there should be a they do a PHC, right? I think there should be some kind of thing around that. I don't know what it'd be called, but there'd be something about that.
Let's figure that out.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. So with that all, is there something that you would like to share more with our chiropractic audience? What more would you like to share?
Register.
Oh, that's a good one.
And all joking aside, there's just great energy in action, and you've heard us. You've heard us today, and it's time to take the action. And we're probably all feeling that in our lives anyway. We're as Danny said, we're community deprived, and we can get in our own little ways and habits and bubbles. And it's just really take the action to register, commit, and invest in yourself. And this part of really just understanding, feeling, and showing more of what chiropractic is for you. And it's just a fantastic group. September 21st through 24th, register, get it going. And on the logistics side of why you should register is because you also want to stay at the hotel, and that thing fills up.
Yeah.
So best prices and availability is right now, register.
Yeah, there's no one likes a procrastinator. Just dial in that you're going to commit. And every year I commit to a couple things. I look at the beginning of my calendar and I say, where's Sherman Lyceum? And I mark that, and I'm going to be there. Clearly I put Mile High. I just know I'm going to be there. And I know that that's part of my world as a chiropractor, not just because I put on Mile High, so I know when it is. But that's how I think when I look at my calendar. What are the things that I know want to be at? There's going to be things about my analysis that I want to do in terms of upping my skill and focus at. I want to be at Sherman Lyceum. I want to be at Mile High. There's a handful of other things. I put them on right at the beginning, and my life goes around those because I know they're part of, me growing as a doctor of chiropractic,
Yeah.
and things I know I'm going to bring my team to also to help them grow. So, well, I got to say, Dr. Simon Dove, thank you so much for your tenacity in chiropractic, your contributions, leading up the foundation, stepping up in so many ways, from the political things what we've done, stepping up to be an MC, and just making sure that chiropractic moves forward in the state of Colorado and beyond. And we look forward to all the fun we're going to have at Mile High, and also the fun leading up. So thank you so much for all you're doing for chiropractic.
Thank you, Danny. And
We
I
appreciate
appreciate that.
And so everyone is watching, listening, remember to clear your calendar. I'm not going to say mark your calendar. You know what it is. Clear your calendar, reserve your seats, reserve your hotel, rise up to milehigh.com. Bring your team. It's great. Your team training with Julie Jones, which is phenomenal. This team breakouts, and keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic. We're going to have a lot of fun leading up to this year's Mile High. If you probably we haven't announced the theme yet, but you may know it when we say these go to 11.
That's right.
So,
and there's often good whiskey there. Not always, but there's often good whiskey.
Often,
for those that like
that's
whiskey.
true. That's true. And keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic.